here and you're talking about IETF things, it's public data. Be aware that if you want to talk about, if you walk into an IETF meeting and talk about an idea, be aware that it's hard to claim IPR, intellectual property rights, for things like that. This just says that almost everything you do at an IETF meeting is IETF related. I'm going to talk about things that are immediately useful to you at this meeting. We're going to try and, I'm not going to talk about the history of the IETF. There's lots of places you can read it. I'm not going to talk about how to write a standard. Again, lots of documentation there. There are other places to go. We've only got about an hour to do it. I couldn't teach you how to write a standard in an hour, but there are places you can go. This is what I looked like at the end of the longest IETF meeting that IETF working group meeting I'd ever attended. We started about 8 o'clock in the morning. We finished about 2 o'clock the next morning. So try not to look like this at the end of your first meeting. Talk about the meeting. Talk about the difference between the IETF and other standard development organizations. Or talk about a little bit about culture. And people think about culture in different ways. The IETF has a culture. We'll talk about why our culture is important to you guys being here. Talk about consensus, etiquette for working group meetings, and in general for the meeting itself. Talk about the differences between the birds of a feather sessions and working group sessions and why they're important to you as new attendees. Talk a little bit about some of the people that you may encounter while you're here. Useful people, useful documents and tools. Talk about what the Internet Research Task Force is, just again, because they meet with us. They're not the IETF, but you might find it useful to sit in one of their sessions and understand what's going on. And also talk a little bit about other resources that are available to you while you're here and later on. The IETF is an organized activity Internet society. That wasn't always the case. The IETF was originally an engineering organization for the United States government, for the NASA Science Internet, the Department of Energy ESNet, the ARPANET and the MILNet, and the National Science Foundation Network, NSFNet. Over the years, the IETF turned from that engineering organization to what we primarily are today, a standard organization. We're going to get into what a standard, how the work gets done here. Most of the work we're going to see in the IETF gets done actually in subgroups, the working groups. You will encounter lots of them here. There's about 130 of them. You also might encounter the term the Internet Architecture Board. In fact, that's probably one that you would have encountered before you actually encountered the IETF, because that gets more of the press, the public press. Lots more details. We're not going to worry about things that aren't important to you right now, okay? But if you have questions, find somebody with a little happy face on them. They will help you to understand what's going on. So IETF is roughly divided into these areas: general, applications real-time, transport, internet routing, operations and management, and security. This is useful for you because if you are interested in a working group, it is associated with an area. And other working groups in that area may also have interests for you. So if you are a security geek and you're working on authentication in constrained environments, you might find something useful in, say, TLS, which is also a working group in that security area. And this is what happens when I push the wrong buttons. There we go. Sorry. Okay. We meet 3 times a year. We've met all over the world. This is the 97th one of these. I've been to 91 of them, sadly enough. This is actually the 30th anniversary. December will be the 30th anniversary of the first IETF meeting. Okay. At the session, these are the events. These are the things that are organized. Working group sessions. That's mostly what you're going to see here. But you get birds of a feather sessions, IRTF sessions, You get the area-wide sessions, the security area advisory group, the applications area steering group, things along those lines. Plenaries, we've only got one this time around, if I remember correctly, and that's on Wednesday, and that's a combination technical and administrative. Sometimes, if we've got enough going on, those will get split into 2 nights, one for administration and one for technical stuff. But like right now, that's what we're doing. Tutorials and lunch events. I don't think we've got a social, I know we don't have a social event this time around, but we do have the Bits and Bytes, which is sort of a social event, and we want you to look at our product stuff. Code sprints, hackathons. Hackathons and code sprints start at the beginning of the IETF. Hackathons are pretty common in a lot of different organizations. And I believe Huawei is sponsoring the development here. It's about building something with people who want to build something with you really quickly. The code sprints are for the IETF. They are people who are working on the tools for the IETF. When you log in and are putting an internet draft in, those tools were built quite a bit by the people who worked in the code sprints. And then you're going to have a bunch of non-public business meetings, which are, you'll walk around and you'll see the IAB meeting, the IESG meeting, non-com, and things along those lines. So then the disorganized events. Hallway meetings. These people are smart and opinionated. They're self-selected for being here. And just because, sorry, I'm going to pass on that one. We are, occasionally we get blunt. Occasionally you will be in a meeting and somebody will say, your idea sucks, sorry. Most people don't mean to be rude. It is a style of presentation that we've been trying to get ourselves out of, but 30 years gives you a lot of inertia. So we are a long-established organization. We have a culture. You will not be able to change it immediately. You change it by participating and by putting a little bit of stuff into the water and helping to change the flavor of things. But it's going to take a little bit of time. Last piece is really important to know. If you bring an idea forward and you try and get 30 or 40 people to bring the same idea forward, it better be a good one. If it is a bad one and it's a company thing or a organizational thing, or you're trying to do something, it's still a dumb idea, and we know the difference. This is it. We're all about the internet and internet-related technologies. We deal with things that are at the internet level, sometimes a tiny little bit underneath that with respect to things like MPLS, and things just a little bit over that, dealing with transport layers and things like that. We mostly don't deal with, we occasionally deal with applications to the other people in the room. And by respectfully, I mean, be aware that they may not be in the same place you are with respect to understanding of what's going on. Okay, so it's not it may be ignorance rather than stupidity, and in fact, it probably is ignorance rather than stupidity. But willful ignorance is problematic. So just be aware and be a little bit tolerant of people when they're doing. And we're going to be doing the same for the new people here. Okay. Do introduce yourself. If you don't make that connection, you cannot be successful at an IETF meeting. Okay, if you want to sit in the back, stay on your iPhone or your pad or whatever, you will not make an impact in this organization. That may be fine. Okay? Don't harass other participants. There is a definition for us. That's the website that talks about it. If you feel harassed, please find somebody with a dot, not one of these, but a solid dot, and tell them, and they will help you resolve the problem. Okay? We have food at various receptions. It's a little bit like a set of army ants when people get to these things. They just sort of pile up. Please don't hog the food. Grab something. Move out of the way. Go forward. Watch your bags. Get enough sleep. And try and enjoy yourself. It's going to be a long week. Okay. Typical working group session meets. A working group is designed to work on a set of tasks for a particular set of problems. Okay, they're only going to meet for a couple hours in an IETF meeting, but most of the work they do happens continuously over the years, over email and things like that. This is the working group sessions are golden time. They're there to give the opportunity to get high bandwidth interaction, get things resolved that you may not be able to do over email, especially when you get nuances going on there. So please, if you're going to participate, read your IDs, read what's being discussed before you get in there. If you're going to speak up, make sure you know what you're talking about with respect to this stuff. Sessions are being streamed and recorded. If you get up to speak, first thing out of your mouth every time is your name, because nobody knows who you are, and these are being streamed, and we need to let the people know at the other end and whoever's listening. Blue sheets are not in here. We keep a record of everybody who shows up at one of the working group sessions. That's for two reasons. One, just to get an idea of how many people we need for the rooms for the next time around. And the other one is sort of to get an idea of who's been paying attention for IPR purposes. So just be aware about that. Sign the blue sheets, read the agenda. Please listen. If you're in a session and you can't understand, and the person who's talking isn't speaking loud enough or speaking too fast, please let them know. We can't be your mind readers. If you are a non-native English speaker, or you have issues, or the person speaking is having problems with that, in many cases what you want to do is that right there. And I'll talk about Jabber a little bit later. But sometimes you can get somebody to explain what's going on text-wise without actually having to interact, without ever having to interrupt people. Look around you. We've got coats, we've got bags, and we've got things like that. Fortunately, we got enough room in here. Some of the rooms that you're going to be in are going to be pretty crowded. Please be aware of your surroundings. Move the bags. Let people sit down. Side conversations. Outside, mostly. You can do a few seconds with something, but in most cases, if you think you're being quiet, you aren't. So, and Jabber stuff. So, birds of a feathers are sessions where we've got a new idea, or we've got something that we want to try out, or we've got some people who are interested in something fun. So we've had birds of a feather sessions on Internet of Things. We've had birds of a feather sessions on, I've lost track over the years. The idea is the birds of a feather session is to get people involved, get an idea of whether or not we should form a working group, and have that conversation. They tend to be a little bit more tutorial than working group sessions. So you will get some information beforehand, but the key piece is they generally only meet once. And they either end up going away or ending up as a working group. So there. You've got most of all the stuff over here. The working groups ideally have a fixed life. They are designed, when you start the working group, you've got a work plan, and when the work plan is done, the working group is done. Some working groups have lasted quite a long period of time because every time we get something done, something else gets added to the thing. But with the things that are more focused, this is the goal, to get it started, go through the process, and get it done. So, give me a half second to grab some water, if you would, please. You don't actually really need to look to know this, but the guys who with solid dots are generally people who are involved in the running of the IETF or something along those lines. So these guys, the green dot guys, you should be aware of, because they are the ones who can help you with local stuff here. They are involved in dealing with the local network and things along those lines. But almost any of these people can answer the question of where do I go to find an answer. Okay? They may not be able to answer the question, but they can answer the question to find the question. So keep these guys in mind. These are the first people you want to talk to. They generally know something about how the IETF is set up. Go talk to them first. If you can't, in many cases, they may drag you over to the secretariat or something along those lines. So, speaking of the secretariat, there are a number of organizations that support and help the IETF. Most important one are these guys, the secretariat. You're going to see them wandering around. They've got secretariat on the back, black shirts. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And they are key to our success. They have been, in some cases, I believe Marsh has been with us for 15 or 20 years. They provide continuity, they provide support for the organization, and they also, and they're the ones who figure out how to get the meetings actually working. Okay. IANA. If you don't necessarily need to know about this right now, but my guess is later on, if you're writing an internet draft or you're working on the process, you will probably end up having to talk to them. Again, they have office hours here. There's a table up by registration. They're nice people. Go by. They have candy. It's a useful thing. Actually, so does the RFC editor. RFC editor is responsible for actually taking your misformed ideas and paper and turning it into something that would be appreciated in any publication in the world. We have good quality, good professional quality editors that are involved in this process. So again, worthwhile to say hi, chat about what's going on if you are getting to the point of wanting to publish something. All good people. Heather is the RFC editor. This is her staff here. Neville is about to leave. He is the independent stream submission editor. The RFC series is request for comments. The reason it's called that has something to do with something going back to 1969, if you can believe that. It was never really designed as a publication series on this scale, but it has ended up there. Neville is the guy who deals with things that are not necessarily IETF related, but should go into the RFC series. So you get things that are on the edge of what the IETF wants to work on, but we don't want to, but it isn't going to be published in an IETF document. So the IESE is the guy who is the gatekeeper for that, along with the independent submission editorial board. So, actually I'm doing much faster than I was planning on. There are a bunch of useful documents. You've got the printouts here. The Tao of the IETF has been around for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And it's been edited a couple of different times. It's just sort of the history of the IETF, the culture of the IETF, how to get around in it. It's a good document to read someway midway through the middle of this meeting. Meeting Wiki. This is the place to go for things about that are locally significant. One of the more important things off of the Meeting Wiki is the departures page. If you're going off to fly on a particular day and you want somebody to share a cab with, you can post your departure and make arrangements to go there. And then the Edu tutorials. There are more tutorials than I can shake a stick at with respect to what the IETF does, including the original Newcomers tutorial, which was more of a history of the IETF, as opposed to this, which is sort of your quick guide to survival. List of lists. There are lots of mailing lists in the IETF. If you haven't noticed that already, well, I'm not sure how you managed to get here. But start there. There are something on the order of 3 different mailing lists for the meeting. One dealing with newcomers, one dealing with any attendee, and one dealing with anyone who's registered. And you can sign up as attendees for the last 2. You're always signed up for the first one, but the only people who can send it are the secretariat. So it's just a way of getting information. I believe this is the correct location for the network information. It changes occasionally, and for some reason they don't put this page up until about now. So I kind of guess at this, but we'll see if we can figure it out. So one of the other things you'll see on the schedule is the IRTF. This is the Internet Research Task Force. The IRTF deals with things that may not be real quite yet. It is, for example, delay tolerant networking was about how do you deal with interplanetary networks, for example. The research groups are, well, sorry, and there's also one other which is sort of weird, which is the Crypto Research Forum, which deals with cryptography and getting things approved for algorithms and things like that. They generally meet at this meeting as well. Unlike the IETF, the research groups are have different membership rules. You generally have to apply to join, and the approval is by the chair's permission. Again, depending on the individual research group. You are welcome to attend the sessions here, okay? But in many cases, the membership of the thing is closed. So you can go and listen to the whole thing. Newcomers page, have you all seen this? Hopefully by now. Okay. This is where you want to go just to see the previous Newcomers briefings. Like I said, the history of everything going on. Tools page, when you get around to doing internet drafts, when you're trying to get something submitted, that's where you want to go. Jabber. Let me leave Jabber alone for a second. How many of you came with somebody that's not attending IETF? Okay. So you have an opportunity. You should point them at this. Okay. It's a way for your husbands, wives, kids, whatever, to get together and with other people who are basically just going, "What the hell am I doing when my husband, wife, or somebody else is sitting here?" So we've got a pretty decent companion program. Point this to them, and they can make arrangements to meet up with other people in the same situation. So, okay, Newcomers meet and greet is, I think, at 4 o'clock today. You are all invited. Actually, we invite all newcomers, working group chairs, and right now the current definition of newcomer is anyone who's attended 5 meetings or less. Drinks are in the house, so go there. It precedes the welcome reception. See the agenda. Naveen is not in here. Okay, Naveen Khan sets up an opportunity for you to get together with other newcomers and go off informally and meet and have a dinner. She set something up, and I believe it's still at 8 o'clock on Monday. So send an email to her, she can figure it out. Is Nalani in here? Okay. There is a mentoring program for this. How many of you have signed up for mentoring? All right, actually that's good. Okay, if you don't do it now, it may be worthwhile to do the next time you're here. The mentoring sessions start right after this. It's, again, more detailed one-on-one type things. So, okay, local cautions. This changes every time I do the slides. Mostly, I think you're pretty good here. The only ones I actually found when I went looking, we do have the protests going on. Just be aware if you get out of this area. I think most of them are like 2 miles away, so you should be fine. This second one was weird, but it was something I got on 3 different websites. Just be aware that there are some controls on public speech in the country, especially with respect to North Korea. And finally, watch your step. Watch your stuff. We don't want you to lose your bags. We don't want you to lose your computers. We are mostly an honest group, but sorry. Be aware. Okay, so this would normally be the end of the presentation. In fact, it was the end of the presentation last time, and I really went through this very fast. Sorry. Networking. Okay. I'm glad you all mostly stayed off your computers. Some of you didn't. I see you out there. Okay, the IETF runs the network in this hotel for the entire time it's here. Unlike any other conference I've seen, we basically take over the entire thing. Everything top to bottom belongs to us. The only thing we can't swap out are the access points on the guest floors. But the back end of it is we have a network that is pretty much second to none with respect to backhaul. So you're going to see wireless SIDs, IETF, IETF Hotel, IETF V6 only, things along those lines. The non-secure ones, you just connect and you're good to go. The secure one, like IETF Hotel, doesn't actually have a password or doesn't have any security. IETF is actually, you log in and it'll pop up a WPA2, and it'll be user ID, IETF, password IETF, pretty straightforward. So you shouldn't have any problem getting on. If you do have problems, the terminal room has people who can help you. And they are on the, this floor, okay, yeah. Oh, anyway, like I said. So if you have problems getting connected, go there. There's probably printouts of the network information sheet there as well. Jabber. I mentioned this really briefly, but it's actually a really important thing. When you're sitting in a room with, well, for example, the plenary, 1,000 people, having everybody try and talk is difficult. But sometimes you just need to have an answer to a question. Jabber is the chat room associated with a working group meeting. So almost every working group meeting you're in is going to have a Jabber chat room with that name in it, the working group name in jabber.ietf.org. Go ask the chair if you don't know what it is, what the actual Jabber name is there. If you don't know what Jabber is, it's extensible multi-presence protocol. Messaging presence. Thank you. I wrote these things a while back, so it's kind of keeping track. Easiest thing to do is go here and try out a couple of clients. I can't give you any more guidance than that because what works for one person doesn't work for another. The clients are all over the place in quality. If you've got somebody around you that's on the same type of machine as yours that seems to be doing okay, ask them what they're using and try it. Okay. You can also register for an account. That'll give you some guidance on where you can get an account for it. Again, really useful if you're sitting there and you're having problems understanding what somebody's saying. You can go, what the heck did he just say? And you will get an answer back from somebody who's in the room going, he said such and such. So it's a good way of getting a response, or in some cases raising a question. Okay, there is a survey there. My guess is you will get another email saying, if you came to this meeting, please sign up for the survey. Please take it. It's useful feedback. What happened last time was kind of amusing. And in fact, this is problematic because I'd never had a survey where they said, is the meeting too long, too short, or just right? And I got nothing on the too long side. So it's too short and just right. So hopefully I have given you enough information and haven't spoken too quickly. Part of it, I did apologize for if I have spoken too quickly. I'm literally trying to keep my voice from dying. I can answer a few questions if you want, or you're good to go until your next sessions. Yeah, would you come up to the microphone, please, and state your name? Yes. Thank you for giving me an example of how to attend a working group.
Hi, I'm Amod Vyavaharkar.
Okay.
And my question is, at the working groups, do we need to register ahead of time?
No.
So
you just walk into the working group and you're good to go. The
Thanks.
blue sheets are used, when you sign up for the blue sheet at the end, when you're in the meeting, those are used to figure out the room for the next meeting, how large it has to be. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Jake Holland. I was curious, you mentioned a couple of sort of times, don't present stupid ideas, don't. So I was just curious what the sort of incidence rate is of companies trying to push a stupid idea with a attack, and how, what are the countermeasures and how often does this come up? What's the sensitivity level? I mean,
over the 30 years I've been doing this, about every 2 years you get a kind of an impulse of those types of things. Mostly it happens and then it goes away. Occasionally we get strange things like the ITU versus the IETF with MPLS, for example. But again, let me say this. I don't mean to say you shouldn't bring up an idea, because sometimes just having that conversation about, is this a stupid idea, is a useful thing for people to have. Presenting the same thing over and over, as I think Einstein said, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result is insanity. Sometimes applies to the IETF, and sometimes we just need to remember the history, and sometimes you just need to find the people with the history who know what's going on about that. So again, don't be afraid to bring an idea forward. Just be prepared to defend it well technically. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, please, and to the microphone, if you would. Microphone, please.
This is E. My question is, so what is the
Into the mic.
Sorry. Okay, it's better.
Yeah.
This is E. My question is the nomination committee, what it is?
Oh. Did I actually pass by that? I'm sorry. You mean right here? Okay. Mostly this is something you don't need to worry about for this meeting. The IETF picks its own managers. It selects its area directors and chairs through a process called the nominations committee process. There is a set of RFCs if you want to read on it. This turns out to be the third meeting of every year tends to be the meeting at which the NomCom meets to talk to candidates and figure out who they're going to select for the next go-around with respect to area directors for the IESG, the Internet Architecture Board, and the Internet Administrative Oversight guys. These are, by the way, these guys are the guys who are the thankless guys we have. They're responsible for dealing with managing the process of contracting for things for things. They don't do the contracting themselves, but they're sort of the guys who figure out where the meetings are going to go, what types of services we need as the IETF and things along those lines. So all the IAOC, the NomCom, the IESG, and the IAB are all selected by the NomCom. People do at least 2-year terms, and we tend to make sure we're only swapping one area director at a time. So, anyone else? Anybody asleep? Was that useful, I hope? Okay, please go out and standardize. Please enjoy yourselves. Do come to the, like I said, do come to the newcomers brief. Do introduce yourself. Walk up to anybody and say, hi, I'm such and such, and I really would like to talk to you about such and such. Okay? In the newcomers area, there will be, I believe there are tables with those types of things on them. So if you have an area that you're interested in, go find the table and find people who are standing around it and talk to them. Don't forget to talk to each other. Okay, again, I've known people here for 30 years.